Hey, what's up, Streamkeepers, and welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about accelerating growth. So what does this mean? However, before we go into today's topic, I actually wanted to give a special shout out to those guys that, they are actually now in the planning stage again. They have already set up the tanks, their racks and stuff like that. They have been into stream breeding for some time, and now they are actually looking for the next step in 2023, and I really wish them all the best in terms of their progress, and I hope to see very good results in the future. So coming back to today's topic on accelerating growth, and one of the things that in this topic is going to be a little bit more controversy. Is a few things being tied together. So I think the very first thing is about the growth process, the learning process and the growth process. And what does it really mean? Everybody actually goes through a cycle, from a learning phase into a, excelling phase and things like that. However, in order for us to really, excel or to really do the things that, why some of us, we do it easily, and it appears that we have a lot of time to do it. However, it's actually not that we have a lot of time to do it. It's because that we have done it repetitively a lot of time. It becomes second nature to us. It becomes very easy. It's like brushing your teeth, right? So brushing your teeth is, you do it every day. It's not like time consuming. So I think this video will actually shed some, some ideology, some concepts on how some of these successful breeders, we have very successful breeders that we have interviewed before, and one of the trait or one of the character that actually drives the success rate in terms of the growth and the learning process. And the number one thing is that, do not be afraid to do things, right? To put in action and reset your tanks. And one of the things that when we look at in a global perspective, I always like to use this example to share with guys for breeders who just started off. One of the things is that, for example, not everybody have the luxury of having 100 tanks, 50 tanks, aquarium tanks, right? And that's the reason why even if, let's say, you have like 5 tanks or 10 tanks, and if you really want to learn well, the number one thing is that you shouldn't be afraid to do. So there are actually 3 very important steps that encompass all of this learning. And the very first one is you listen. The second one is learn, and then you appreciate. So like for example, when you start to listen to what breeders actually share with you, and then you start to learn why are things done like that, and then you appreciate how they do it, how they do it, and why they do it like that. And with that, then you come out with your own learning perspective, and then you ask questions in terms of why is it like that. Not trying to challenge the person, but of course you challenge the question and the process of it. And one of the reasons for doing that is that I think we have been handed down with a lot of information in the past on stream breeding techniques, of course with setting out of tanks and things like that. However, I think if you ask the last person that taught you why is it like that, more often than not, it's kind of difficult for that person to actually share the background information on why is it like that. And of course, coming into this, it sometimes can become a little bit more sensitive in the sense that because it's all social media, it's all online, you are texting somebody, and that face-to-face, the human equity is gone. So there's bound to be some misunderstanding, some misconception, some loss in translation. So there's a lot of possibilities that this information has been, watered down in terms of it. In the very beginning, it could be very good. The knowledge, the information is really good. But however, as it cascades down, a lot of this information starts to get watered down, and people start to add this and that, and then the whole information got skewed all over. And so coming back to that, having the ability or the will to actually do it is critical. And one of the reasons is that because if let's say you have 10 tanks, versus a guy, you know, who has 50 tanks. And from a reset standpoint, if let's say you're gonna, you know, all else is equal, you reset the tank every year, you know, the guy with the 50 tanks will reset 50 tanks in 1 year. However, the guy with the 10 tanks will need 5 years to actually reset 50 tanks. You know, so the learning probability, you know, the learning concept starts to slow down a little bit. And one of the reasons is because it's, if you keep everything else is equal, you know, we are, you know, it's it really takes a lot of time to do the reset and things like that. And during that, you know, during that period of reset, you're bound to make a lot of mistakes. Like for example, I'm just giving a very classic example. If you set up one rack, you probably wouldn't get into a lot of trouble. I'm not say trouble, a lot of issues and things like that. But over time, you know, you start to do a lot more. There will be time that you will make some mistake. You know, to error is to human, right? So making a mistake doesn't mean that it's a problem. However, the ability to do it, to rectify it, to problem solve it, you know, I think that's more critical in that sense. Another classic example that I share, you know, like for example, we have, you know, many racks that we have set up, and one of it is, like for example, you know, in this picture over here, you can actually see that the one of these you know, legs, you know, the latch actually came off, and it's really troubling me. Of course, you know, in terms of if there's any risk involved and things like that, all of it is fine. However, you know, having that kind of things that, you know, I got alerted of this issue, so I quickly rectify it. How I do it is that, you know, I remove most of the water, not all the water. I carry the tanks down, rack it up again, and make sure that everything is well before I put all the tanks back, and you know, and all the streams are fine. So having this example shows that, you know, if you have a lot of experience, a lot of time that you have to do, a lot of racks, a lot of tanks, you're bound to experience a lot more than a person that has less. But however, it doesn't mean that, you know, having a lesser rack, lesser tank, you are being you will not learn as fast. So I think the whole ideology is that do not be afraid to learn, do not be afraid to do more when you have lesser tank. So I think the challenge comes when you have lesser tanks and you do not want to do and you do not want to learn. I think that's where the issue comes about. So the guy with the 50 tanks, you know, coming back to the example, the guy with the 50 tanks will bound to have a lot of issues. So he's actually fixing a lot of issues day in, day out, trying to, and from that process, he actually learns a lot. Not because he has 50 tanks, but because he is actually solving a lot of problems that is always arising. So that gives him the opportunity to learn and then to share all this information to actually to the rest of his friends or things like that. So that's, I think, the whole concept about, you know, learning and accelerating growth is to do the things, you know, keeping things, you know, following the process, following everything to the T. Make sure that, you know, the things that are being taught, the things that are being shared are being followed, and not selectively listen or selectively being adapted. Like for example, you know, in terms of the learnings that I got, like for example UGF, in the past, you know, UGF are all very popular, and having UGF in the tank, permanent UGF in the tank, is thought to be, you know, one of the better method. Of course, there are still breeders that uses UGF. I'm not saying that they are not good. However, the proper method is that there is a drainage valve at the back end of the UGF, and that's where, you know, you discharge the stuff. And when the learning or the, you know, the knowledge or the information that got here is that, you know, you just have the UGF and that's it. And you know, that's where, you know, there's a lot of question involved around some of this knowledge, some of this information, are they truly accurate in terms of because it has been passed down along the way. So you know, information got lost, information got skewed, and one of the things that I think this is a very classic thing that has been ongoing, even in schools, right? When we do that, you know, like like some sort of team building thing where you tell somebody else something, and then by the end of it, the end of the last person telling you what is the actual word or the sentence that was actually being mentioned by the first person. I think that will be lost in translation. So I think in terms of knowledge, in terms of information, the whole guidance, the knowledge is there. It is there for us to learn, and then we unlearn and then we relearn again. So I think that's how you actually accelerate your growth, accelerate your learning. First is not to be afraid of doing things. So remember to always listen, learn, and appreciate the things that has been shared in the aspect, so that you can really enjoy the entire hobby. And I'm sure we have a lot of good examples on the YouTube channels. There have been very successful breeders that started off with nothing, with one tank, who doesn't even have string tanks in the very beginning, and after 6 months, 8 months, they become extremely successful in breeding streams because they understand the concept. They trust the process, they trust the things, and not being selectively, okay, I'm going to selectively gather this information, and then I take that, and then we try to piece them all together to create something that doesn't work out, may or may not work out. So there's always a risk of that. However, if that's what you are actually looking for, by all means, definitely at the end of the day, it's still a hobby, a learning process, and I really encourage people to keep trying, and never give up. So having that, just remember that the example with the 50 tanks and the 10 tanks, the guy with the 50 tanks will experience 5 times more than the person with the 10 tanks. However, if the person with the 10 tanks is able to do a lot more during his process, he may get up to where the 50 tank guy is. And the reason why I use this analogy is because the guy who have 10 tanks, if he uses a 1-year cycle, it needs to take 5 years. And not many breeders last 5 years in this hobby. And one of the reasons is because a lot of these string breeders that come into the hobby, they get deflated by the end of the 3rd year. They lost so much money. And so I have a lot of overseas breeders telling me stories about how they lose a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars, and they do not want to continue with the hobby, or some still want to continue but still do not want to learn. So there's always a story behind it. But however, having that, having a proper guidance, having proper a mentorship, I think that will definitely help you in terms of the learning process. So thank you guys for watching, and until next time, peace out.